All right, Rowan. Rowan, where are you from? Where do you grow up?
I'm from Middletown, Connecticut. I was born in Middletown, Connecticut. I've spent a lot of time in New Haven. I went to school in New Haven, lived there for the most of the pandemic in an apartment. But I was born and grew up in Middletown, Connecticut.
Which is a couple hours from New York City.
Yeah, it's only a couple hours from New York City. It's like I've been here a lot, but it's like just kind of a central Connecticut town because it's got like Wesleyan, Wesleyan, the liberal arts school, and it's got a very focused community of people that have come from like it was like an immigration hub back in the past. So we have a lot of like cultural restaurants and things that I like kind of took for granted and I now miss here, even though I'm in another huge cultural hub.
And tell me about your family. You had both mom and dad growing up? You still do?
Both my mom and dad are together. I've got 3 sisters. My mom and dad both are theater artists, have been as long as I can remember. My dad runs like a community theater company that kind of specializes in like arts programming for everyone. So they bus kids after school and stuff for all sorts of arts and theater programming. And they also run like an outdoor Shakespeare company that went on for about like 12 years.
And you're going to school for drama at NYU?
And I'm going to school for drama at NYU in the experimental theater wing.
How old are you?
I'm 19. I'll be 20 in July in the summer.
You enjoying it?
I'm loving it so far. Like
how do you like New York City?
I'm absolutely loving New York City. It's kind of the place that I already feel like I need to be, which is, I guess, probably how a lot of NYU students feel, except for the ones who very much don't. But being here, I already don't want to leave, and I already want to be here forever.
Yeah, coming from a smaller town in Connecticut, to New York City, it's got to be exciting.
Yeah, no, it's constant. And for me, I really function on like a consistent schedule, always having something. And being here makes the time pass differently. Time here, I think, just passes differently in general. But there's always something happening. And then when I get to the evening, it feels like time just accelerates. Like the time between like 11 and 3 a.m. in New York City is like ×5, I feel like, no matter what you're doing.
New York's a fun city.
Yeah, definitely.
Back to your childhood. How was your childhood growing up?
Well, like I said, I did a lot of theater. I was actually homeschooled for most of my childhood. After kindergarten, I just had a time in kindergarten where I wanted to leave. Like I vocalized to my parents when I was like 5 that I just didn't want to be in the environment of school. I really don't know. I don't have a specific event that like led me to that decision, but
you just knew that school sucked.
I knew that. And they my older sisters, I have 2 older sisters who are like 10 years older than me. They went to public school for the entirety of their academic careers, but my parents decided with me that I vocalized it when I was 5, and I was homeschooled for the next 3 years. And then in 4th grade, I kind of was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back. I wanna try it out. And for 4th and 5th grade, I went back to elementary school and then decided again, I don't like this. I'm gonna go, and I was homeschooled for middle school. And then in high school, I auditioned for a arts magnet school in New Haven.
What kind of kid were you in high school?
I was obviously a theater kid, which, I did a lot of theater, but I ended up having friends who I'm still really close with. A lot of the friends I was in high school, I still like hold very close because I have experienced a lot of things with them. Went through a lot of I had 2 friends in high school who were like sent to like recovery programs in Utah, which is kind of like a classic story of like having your parents find out about some kind of like usually like drug use of some sort and be like, we can't deal with this. There's this industry of people who deal with this, and then the kids are kind of swifted away in the middle of the night.
Were drugs a thing even in Connecticut?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't.
God, it's everywhere in this country, it seems.
No, yeah, definitely.
Definitely here in Washington Square Park. It's
oh yeah, it's everywhere.
The northwest corner is nothing but.
Definitely, absolutely. And Connecticut I was around, like, there was a lot of kind of separated out communities of like different drugs. In high school, I only ever really smoked weed and tried psychedelics. I never got into like pills and stuff, but a lot of people that I knew were, and that's kind of what happened to my 2 friends who went to Utah. Their parents like found out and like freaked out and, you know, paid a bunch of money to have them sent off, and they were gone for like 9 months with like no contact with them. One of them was gone for over a year, and the other one was gone for about 9 months. And it was kind of like traumatic for me in a certain way, because like it was just like a friend who disappeared with literally no warning, like actually 0 warning. Like they were just taken away and like without their choice. Like someone just showed up to their house and they were like, "You're coming with us."
The family was trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, yeah. And when they got back, they're absolutely the same people, but like they both kind of processed it in very different ways. One of them I'm really not close to anymore. One of them I'm still very close with. And the one who I'm still close with, I think, has really processed that experience very differently. At first, they felt like they were just kind of escaping this like traumatic situation, but then they kind of talked about how they'd like ingrained a lot of really like harmful thought patterns into themselves that they had to like consciously break apart after the first few months of being back in like regular society around people who were like connected to social media and all this stuff that they just hadn't had any access to for a long time. And they just kept coming up with all these things that they were like, I don't actually believe this, but I have like a visceral reaction to all of these things. And yeah, you know, I think the stuff out in Utah, at least the place that he was at, it was some very, not a great thing to do to a struggling teenager, especially because, you know, they're kind of, a lot of them are like forcing their religious agenda onto them. But they definitely, I think, also took positive things from it. Like, I think there was definitely some very conscious personal growth that came from that, and they're doing well now, which is good.
That's
like
great.
They're not like really struggling, they're not like having issues with drugs, and even before, like it's not like they were really like having like a really bad time with addiction. It was
the family was probably just trying to nip it in the bud.
Yeah, and in a way it might have been a good like thing for him. Like he probably did need to have some kind of intervention at that point.
But it's such a dangerous problem.
Yeah.
The family probably took the right.
Yeah,
made the right move to just stop this.
Yeah.
Rather than letting it get out of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big problem in our country.
It is. It really is.
And now you're going to college at NYU. Do you see drug use there?
Oh yeah, I've had my share of like wacky experiences here. Like, I personally have been like basically just smoking weed. I guess that's like a very see-through. I've like smoked weed kind of habitually as like a little bit of a self-medication thing for like since I was a sophomore in high school, and it's just part of my existence at this point. But that's what I've stayed to myself. But I've definitely been around people who are like very inexperienced with drugs, experiencing it for the first time, and who I had very little relation to and had just met. And it's like, you know, that's what happens at colleges, but it's being around it in a first-hand perspective is really interesting, because I like worry for these people in certain ways. Like they're not exactly like entering into this world in the most safe of avenues, but I can't really do anything to help them at this point. And
you're young. Just keep in mind that it's easier for you to get taken down by them than for you to build them up, fix the problem and build them up. What's more likely to happen is you'll get taken down. So it's a tricky problem.
It is.
Yeah, and you'll end up enabling in your effort to help than you will end up helping. So
yeah,
you have friends here in New York City?
I do. I've got.
So your friends are currently new friends you've made since you moved here, or friends you had since living in Connecticut?
So I've made a lot of new friends, but like my closest friend is someone from my town, Middletown, who I've like known my entire life since I was born. Like our mom's met in the same breastfeeding club. And so we've known each other since like the womb, and I hang out with him every day, which is kind of weird in like an environment where I'm interacting
he's in New York City now?
He's also at Tisch Drama.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah.
That helps a lot. Having a great friend with you is great.
Absolutely. It's like something else I'm very grateful for.
So what about women?
I mean, I don't know. I've been in a few relationships.
Because my viewers are going to ask.
They're going to ask. Well,
You're particularly handsome, so I'm sure you'll get that.
I would say I'm pansexual, so I'm not only attracted to women, but anyone who I find attractive. I
assumed you were straight. I'm sorry.
That's fine. A lot of people do, but I'm not. But I have only had extended relationships with women, but I love women. I'll say that. I have 3 sisters, so most of my friends are women. Yeah.
Good way to handle it.
Yeah.
The world has changed a lot.
It has.
Yes. How do you feel about New York City? It's exciting, right?
Oh, it's incredibly exciting. Like the amount of art and music that I want to, it's very hard not to spend all of my money. Actually, I already have spent all of my money on show tickets and like going to like underground. I'm trying to find more. I was really into Connecticut, into like DIY shows and just getting involved with artists who are trying to create.
But here in New York, you've got all you could.
Yeah, everything.
All you could take in.
Everything, yeah. Like too much to possibly sort it out and figure out what is, and like finding the things that are really interesting to me are like the things that nobody knows about, which is you have to find them yourself because nobody knows about them.
Right.
And
yeah, but that's what New York City is so great for.
Yeah, you can always find something.
There's something for everybody here, and the more you can get into that, the less likely you'll end up getting into other things.
Yeah.
They can be more destructive.
Yeah. It's one of the it's because like it's such a populated city and such like a densely populated city, and I lived in Sri Lanka for 5 months when I was 12 with my parents doing they were on a theater grant from the American Embassy, and I live in Colombo, which is like more densely populated than here, and it's like it's such a dramatically different city experience, the amount that I take for granted the infrastructure of New York City and American cities in general are just a standard of infrastructure that might be outdated in a certain sense, and there's a lot of NYU students who kind of look at it and are like, oh, New York is so dirty and which I think is just kind of looking at it like a weird zoo. But it's an incredibly safe and what's the word? Just
there's a million words for New York City.
There is a million words for New York City.
Yeah, but it's stimulating. It's so. I used, especially when I was younger in my career as a photographer, I found it to be the most motivating place I could ever go. Because all the great photographers lived here, most of them, and it's just such a stimulating, motivating place. And for an actor as well, it's got to be the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the amount of conversations and even there's places that I've seen that have made me want to write monologues or made me want to
very
create characters.
Very inspiring place to be.
Unbelievably
for an
inspiring.
Artist.
And just the amount of parks, the amount of public parks, I love. I've been walking down to Hudson River Park and just looking out at the water, and and Central Park is kind of my only access to nature, because I've been really missing
nature. There's not a tremendous amount of nature here, but it's still a beautiful, beautiful city.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, no, that is I miss the feeling of being in the woods, which is something that I would take in a lot in Connecticut.
You have to get back to Connecticut for that.
Yeah, no, but it's also pretty easy to do that. It's
So your family sounded pretty solid.
Yeah, my family, I appreciate my family a lot, and giving me access to the things that I have had access to, living out of the country, living in Sri Lanka, and going to NYU, is something that I would not be able to do if my parents weren't supportive of me. Like, I mean, it's not even like they can pay for it, and I didn't get like an incredible scholarship. Like, definitely going into debt for this arts degree that is not in any way sure to make me any money, but they're supportive of me in that, which is like something that a lot of people do not have at all. And like, yeah, no, gratitude is something that I have been overwhelmed with since I've gotten here in every way. Like,
From your family?
For my family, for just like, there's just a situation that I'm in now.
Or for your family?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It sounds like you were very loved by your family, and that shows in your mental state and your ability to enjoy your life and have fun.
Yeah, I definitely, like, last year was like a struggle for me in terms of like keeping things going because of just the way it was a struggle for a lot of people in terms of the pandemic. But like I said, I had an apartment for like the entirety of the gap year that I took with a few friends, and I was just working, and I really didn't end up being able to do as many like active things as I wanted to do. I really just spent all of my time working and paying rent, and
The whole world was kind of
frozen. Yeah, it was frozen, and that led to a lot of just a rough time for me mentally over the whole year. But ever since I've been here and kind of picking up since the beginning of this summer, because I worked as like a teacher for kids between like ages of 8 and 15 doing art stuff, that I put me back into this space that was like just discovery and art, of course, like it always comes back to art for me, but discovery and like social interaction leading to the wheel turning forward. That was just, it's completely changed like the way that I'm thinking about the future, mainly, I think, since this beginning of this summer.
What would you like to do in the future?
Well,
What's your dream?
My dream, I want to do theater, but I want to be able to blend it with everything, with other forms of art. I also do music, so I really want to be able to also maintain music in my future. But I also am interested in like very community-based theater. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the theater artist Augusto Boal, but he has this whole theater practice called Theater of the Oppressed that's kind of based around the idea that like if you want to tell a story of a group of people or a plight of anybody or if you want to tell any kind of story, the best way to do it is doing it with the people who are experiencing it and going into the communities that are experiencing certain things and creating like theater with those people themselves, even if they have no experience doing theater. And that's something that like inspires me, because it really is true. Like, theater as a medium can be used with people who have no experience doing it to create like amazing messages and tell stories that illuminate people's experiences. And that is really what I want to do. Like, nothing that I have thought about in my future is really a plan to.
Well, you're 19.
I am 19,
You're
but
19.
I haven't planned out how to become economically successful as an artist.
Again, you're 19. Give yourself some time. No, but it's evident to me by listening to you speak about what you'd like to do and what you're into. That's a reflection to me on how you were probably properly loved by your family.
Yeah.
Because you're able to focus on these things that might move your life, your career forward.
Yeah.
Rather than so many of the people I've interviewed are just lost in trying to survive.
Yeah.
And you're thriving.
Yeah. That is something I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, you should be.
And also kind of connected to that, I think also want to, like I said, keep like teaching and working with young people and kids.
You don't hear people speak like that, 19-year-olds speak like that, unless they're properly raised.
No, that is I think something I can definitely attribute to my parents and my upbringing. I really want to, because I've worked at like this circus camp that my dad actually started like 35 years ago in Middletown. It's like a children's circus summer program that's just like a 5-week day camp type thing that leads up to like a big performance with puppets and huge paper mache props and stuff. But for the last 3 years, I've worked there. I was a counselor, but then this last summer, I kind of like got promoted to like a teaching artist position, and I was teaching improv and clowning, and I was helping teach juggling, because juggling is something I've learned when I was like 8 there. And teaching improv to these kids was like just such an incredible experience, because it like first showed me the amount of creativity that like...
But improv's an incredible thing regardless, for adult anyone.
Yeah, and I'm not the best improv teacher yet. I think next summer I'm probably gonna have a lot more improv teaching skills than I did last summer. But it also showed me like, it made me very hopeful, because I saw that these kids, even though they have their struggles and their conflicts, like they're growing up in a world that has a little bit more understanding and like communication than maybe I did or anyone before me. Like they're getting these things, and through like the education that they're getting and access to the access to things that they have, they're growing up with just a little bit of a head start, even though they're growing up into a world that is really conflicted and like confused. But they're growing up with more tools than I feel like I had when I was growing up, and a lot of other people from my generation and before had. So it made me really hopeful, and it just made me want to keep working with kids, honestly.
Yeah, that's great. What's the... You're only 19, but what's the most important lesson you've learned in your life? Or what do you keep reminding yourself to live by?
I think it's probably presence. At least that's the most like useful reminder that I've had and worked on. It's still something that I'm working on very much, but I think a lot about the future and the past constantly, and bringing myself to the present is probably the most useful thing as like a human and as an artist that I can do. And also connecting my mind and my body, I think, is also something that I want to keep practicing, and it has been like an incredibly useful.
New York City is a great place to remind yourself of how the past and the future and the present are all connected.
Yeah.
I found that just walking down certain streets in New York City, you know that there's some great history on this block.
Yeah, no, the history of every single place is like kind of baffling to me. Like Washington Square Park, there's so much incredible history. There's so many artists who made their start there, musicians, stand-up comedians. There's like terrifying things that have happened there also. Like there's been lynchings there in like far in the past.
New York has such a great history and terrible history.
It's incredible, and like terrible and incredible. Yeah, yeah. Like the entirety of America, you can't escape death and murder in the past and like horrible atrocities, but you also can't escape like the most incredible,
beautiful things that have happened.
Beautiful things everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Rowen. Thank you so much for talking with me, and I wish you the best of luck with school and everything else.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.